Well, maybe next time you're here,
Your engine seems to be it's a diesel truck, I'm guessing, right?
No, if you ever want to see a movie or something...
Oh my God. Okay, yeah. I just hold the thought. I have to go.
I have to. What did I say?
Oh no, it's not you. It's the chimichangas. Oh, they're making a run for the border.
Oh, you're throwing chimichanga bombs?
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
You're listening to Spin Polish Presents Pictures Powwow. I am one of the hosts, Ryan Swinsky.
And I am the Bartek, the other.
Host?
Yeah.
Or Bartek, the other. From beyond.
The other name and the other host.
Fantastic. So we are Spin Polish, likingly because we are always spitting, and we both happen to be Polish. That's the reason.
Technically, we're Spit and Polish Presents.
Yeah, we also present the show that we're giving to you, Pictures Powwow.
And
show...
And joke I've never made before, we like presents.
Exactly. So... Pictures Powwow. Why is it Pictures Powwow? I know it was just a funny name Bartek came up with.
Yeah.
And we cover a movie that has come recommended, whether it's from Bartek, myself, or a listening person.
Mm.
This episode, Bartek, I do believe a listening person suggested a movie.
Yes.
What was the film and who suggested it? And are they in this room? The person who suggested it, not the film.
Who suggested it? Yes. Are they in this room? Jack and Jill.
And the film we're watching is Liam. Give a gracious introduction to our guests, because there's more than just one.
Yes. Our guests are from the Miscellameous Podcast. They are Liam and Giuseppe.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
So,
And I apologize for choosing Jack and Jill.
so okay, cool.
You don't apologize.
He acknowledged that he was Liam by acknowledging that it's his fault that we watched this.
Yes, yeah. And while I enjoy it in its entirety, I understand by watching it that it is quite dismal.
Oh, you say that, do you? Well, we'll get into it, because maybe not everyone here feels that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone looks at
Giuseppe loves it.
Yeah, Giuseppe loves it.
I love it so much that I actually erased it from my memory. So,
Exactly. So let's get into our history with this movie, if we have any. Bartek, last episode I said that this was the movie we were covering, and you chuckled.
Yeah, it was one of those cases
You're like,
where before the episode you told me that if you told me ahead of time what the film was, I'd know who the guest was. So
Yeah, and the other way around. I'm like, it was also like, we're having a guess. You're like, who is it? I'm like, I can't tell you. You'll know what movie it will be.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I got the title, I was like, oh, of course.
So, what's your relationship with Jack and Jill, the film?
I remember seeing the trailer when it was being advertised and thinking, Adam Sandler at it again. But I never saw the film.
That's all you thought? Your thoughts was he's at it again. Because
Adam Sandler's at it again.
sounds like, yeah, it's like that,
File that one away.
one of the South Park sketches, right? Where they like, this movie, got predicted somewhat in South Park, was like the machine spitting out Adam Sandler plot lines. And
I thought they were making fun of it because of the fact that the trailer came out.
No, I think it was before this movie existed. I think
wow.
it was one of those...
Are you sure you're not thinking of the funny people where it parodied his career?
I think it's all of it, dude. Giuseppe, it doesn't matter because it's Adam Sandler. Giuseppe, your history with this film? How many times have you seen it? Why do you love it so much? Why are you here?
I've seen it once.
Great.
I don't know why I'm here. Don't know why Liam chose this film for us to sit through. And I honestly do not remember a lot of it.
Because you didn't rewatch it before doing this.
I did not. No,
That's okay.
No.
I'm not angry about that. Usually, sometimes when guests come on, we're like, we haven't watched it again. I'm like, oh, okay, but this one, like, but maybe I'm angry about it. Who knows? Until we get how I feel.
Time will tell.
Liam, your history, I'm very curious about.
All right, so my history started much the same as everybody else's. I basically ignored the movie's existence, and then I finally saw it, like in the comfort of my own home.
Oh, I thought you would have seen it in the cinema.
No.
Far out.
No.
Okay.
And I very much, I thought it was just a steaming pile of shit. And then, so essentially, this is maybe pre-Netflix time, because I was watching movies on a hard drive, just straight through my TV. And
it's what Adam Sandler would want.
Yeah, exactly. And it just plays, movie after movie if you don't turn it off. And one of those movies, depending on what I was watching, it just came on straight after. It was Jack and Jill. I didn't bother turning it off. I'm sitting on my phone. And then I just kept watching it. And I actually thought it was funny the second time round. And then the third time round, which I watched with my wife because I thought that
Oh,
she
you
might...
subjected someone else to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I thought that she might appreciate it as well the second time round. And she did. So I think
Wow.
that this movie needs to be watched multiple times for you to enjoy it.
Would you say it's the Citizen Kane of the Sandler catalog, in which it's one of those movies that you have to view it a few times to really get the appreciation?
So
of it?
basically, this is going to be an hour of Liam and 3 posers who've only seen it once.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, you don't know my history yet?
Oh, yes, I do.
No, you don't.
I hung out with you all of yesterday.
Yeah.
I think I know your history.
Look, I have some ideas on how I can advise people to approach watching this movie, but I think it's maybe a good idea to see your history with this
my
movie.
history is very fascinating. I, of course, saw the trailer. I have not seen Funny People, so I didn't know in that movie there's a joke that pretty much translates into these type of movies. I had not seen it, of course. You're right, Bartek, until doing it for this. However, my relationship with this movie is very strong in the fact that it's how I discovered the Miscellameous Podcast's existence.
Oh,
because
okay.
we commented on some Twitter post when you actually use Twitter, and it was like some
Twitter?
thread of like favorite guilty pleasure movies, and Miscellameous just popped up by being like, "I love Jack and Jill." I think it's actually one of the best movies.
That was Giuseppe, right?
I hope so.
No.
And it was like on this whole thread of discussion of like, fuck off, get out of here. And I was like, who are you? You're wrong. Get out of here. No one agreed. You stood your ground, and that's when I'm like, oh, who are these guys? Where did they come from with this bold claim? And this is when we were doing our podcast, Unappreciated Masterpieces, in which we would cover stuff like that people didn't like and give it merit. But Adam Sandler was that elusive figure where we pretty much very early on said would most likely only do one Adam Sandler movie in his catalog because he's like, one of those guys in which...
He's Vince Vaughn. He's the same in everything.
Well, no, he's different in certain things. Okay, yeah. But like his movies are the same. Like his comedy stylings are very similar.
Right, yeah.
He's different in the fact that sometimes he cares and sometimes he doesn't care.
Oh.
So it's like,
Do you think he cared in Jack and Jill?
Oh.
We'll get into it. But, with that, yeah. So my relationship with it is, I knew its infamy. I thought I'd never watch it in my life. I didn't want to watch it. I thought I would hate it. Fun fact, Bartek.
You watched it.
I watched it, and you know what? This is God honest truth. I don't think I can say that I properly hated it because it was too boring to hate.
Right.
A movie that's very similar to this that people genuinely love and I genuinely hate is Step Brothers, and I think that movie's far more annoying than Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill is too lazy to get as angry at for its comedy stylings.
See, all of yesterday you were building up the dread of having watched it.
Yeah, I threatened that I'd kill myself after watching
And in my head I was thinking he's not gonna like it, but he's probably building it up too much.
Yeah.
No, I think it was a fair build-up because that's its legacy, right? It's considered one of the worst comedy movies of all time. It's considered his
By
worst
posers.
movie.
So maybe that's why you didn't hate it, because your expectations were already quite
No,
low,
I think
yeah.
also
below the ground.
Also, I think I've seen worse Adam Sandler movies.
It was the first movie to win
All
every
the
category
Razzies.
of the Razzies. Yeah. So I mean that should give you a decent idea of where it sits.
Yeah. To give the basics for those listening, if you haven't seen the movie, we're going to talk about it in spoiling terms. So if you care,
Which you shouldn't.
the trailer gives you the plot, so it doesn't matter. But the plot basically is Jack and Jill are identical twins, even though they're different genders, and you can't have that, but whatever.
Yep.
So plot hole there. Ding, CinemaSins. But like,
They go up the hill to the well.
and it's basically a movie where it's like Jill comes to visit, and there's a series of scenes put together, and then at the end they love each other. There's no real conflict in the movie. No, the conflict is Jack needs to get Al Pacino as the big client. But oh no, Al Pacino is totally on board if only Jill would date him. and that's the movie.
Star of the movie, though, Al Pacino's weak.
No, I think he's weird. Yeah.
His
I thought you said
hairpiece is
star.
spot
I
on.
thought you said the star of the movie was Al Pacino's weak. I'm like, whoa! I think you can take me on it.
Cut the recording.
I thought you guys said star of the movie
Wig.
is Johnny Depp sitting down for his shots where he's at the basketball court. He didn't have to get up. He had a whole day of just sitting down. How envious I am. I wish at my job I could just sit down and not do shit.
Yeah.
This movie, it has its legacy. We all know its legacy. Some of us here like it, evidently. Bartek, how did you feel about the film? I had obviously built it up, but you have to admit that pop culture has built this up as a movie that is is in this hole of terribleness.
Yeah, like one of the worst ever made. Yeah. I mean, I didn't like it, but again, and there were a lot of things to criticize for it. But I'm not passionately hateful of it. I just don't like it.
Did you laugh?
I think once.
What? What?
I was laughing at the trailer before we started this episode.
Yeah, 'cause it was pathetic. No, I'm curious. What did you laugh at?
Well, naturally, it was just a very brief moment. It was when. Remember in the Mexican picnic scene, there was the grandmother when she was hit by the baseball bat and the people crowded around her and were saying, jalapenos, jalapenos. That was it.
They were like trying to get jalapenos to like bring her back to consciousness.
Oh my god.
Jalapenos?
Jalapenos.
Yeah.
So, Giuseppe, when you saw it, did you like it?
No, I did
Did you
not.
find anything funny in it, and anything that stayed with you at least?
Not really. I think I found it funny because it was so horribly bad.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was more so not so much the comedy factor of the movie, more so just
the quality.
the quality. Yeah.
Was there anything? Is there anything that stayed with you since you saw it? And when did you see it? Like when it came out?
Yeah, when it came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the cinema?
No, I think
would have been a download.
It was a download. Yeah.
It was from Liam.
Yeah, it's probably from Liam. Yeah.
So nothing stayed with you.
No, nothing.
Wow, because usually in an Adam Sandler movie, at least one thing stays with you. Not even if it's a good thing, but something stays. Out of all the Adam Sandler movies I've seen, there's always, like, if you say to me, Ryan, remember, have you seen that Adam Sandler movie? And I'll be like, yeah, I have, but the only thing I remember is this thing.
This thing, yeah.
But with this, you got nothing.
Have you watched all Adam Sandler films though?
No, but I've watched a good majority
Yeah.
in my life.
There's a lot of new Netflix one that's the.
Oh
Netflix
yeah, I haven't
ones that I've
bothered
just,
with
like,
any
yeah.
of the Netflix ones.
Yeah.
God forbid.
I
Yes.
think it was what was it? Not
Ridiculous
Hate-
Six?
Ridiculous Six.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
I switched off after 5 minutes.
You should have stayed for 6. So
You gotta push through.
Nah, I could not
Liam,
do it.
obviously you loved this. You like it. What in it is particularly funny to you, and what about the comedy actually works for you in this? Because that's the real $1 million question.
Yeah, and much like Giuseppe said, I don't think the comedy works at all. Like, everything that's in it is just like, every sort of staged gag is like so far removed to what is modern comedy that it's just, it's not funny anymore. But what is funny to me, and I only really noticed this nuance the second time I watched it, was how much he did not care. Like, he put so little care into so much of his delivery that it was just funny to watch him be a female version of himself with a lisp. Like, it was terrible. And then on top of that, the thing that really got me every time it happened was the cockatoo.
Yeah. What was his name, Bartek? Your favorite character in the movie? The bird?
Began with a P.
Poopy?
Which was also voiced by Adam Sandler.
Oh, we are familiar with the Adam Sandler crew. The Adam Sandler crew doing voices in their own films. And Adam Sandler being a voice in a
man.
film. When we did the episode on Big Stan, the Rob Schneider film, Adam Sandler appeared as a voice in that.
Uncredited, though.
Yeah, it's still him appearing
Yeah,
as
I
a
know.
voice.
Yeah.
I will say bravely that I did not have a single laugh in the entire movie, not one. But
Yeah.
I will say there is one, and this is me, I know comedy, there's literally one joke. And when I say joke, I do mean joke. The rest of them are what you would call, like, funny moments, but not actual jokes.
Even like
the idea,
slapstick?
those aren't jokes.
Yeah.
Like, a joke has a beginning, a middle, and an
There
end.
was a lot
Like,
of,
there's
like,
a payoff.
there
There's
was
a setup to a joke and a payoff to a joke.
There's
Like,
a lot of, like, random stuff happening.
it's like, random, like, things. There was no. It was like funny things, but no jokes. But there was literally one joke. So I have to point it out. The joke being, Jack dresses up as Jill in the bathroom. When he goes in, he gives a brief look to the guy in the toilets, who's like the attendant guy there, and he comes out as Jill, and the guy gives him the little scooch finger and adjusts his breasts, and then he gives him like a head nod, very professional. Then the joke is the fact that that's a setup, and then the payoff is the guy sees Jill later in an emotional scene and does the thing and adjusts her breasts, and she reacts because they don't know each other. That's literally the only constructed joke.
And that's a good setup as well. That's a great setup.
It is, but it's the fact that it's the literal only joke, proper comedy joke.
And part of it was, I guess, we as the audience were not expecting them to have such a setup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you don't give them the credit.
Because when I first saw that scene where he gets into the bathroom and cross-dresses, halfway through I was already thinking okay, you could have made it better by doing this. But then as the film played out, it's like, oh no, you're actually setting something up.
Yeah.
Well, that one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. It's just that I have to clarify, because when that statement says oh, this whole sequence, it's setting something up, it makes it sound like there's a whole.
You do this on the mystery box a lot. It doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, no, it doesn't mean that it's representative of the whole. It's specifically for this microcosm moment of it's specifically this one thing. It's not like this one singular strand of a thing.
It's representative of the whole.
So with Jack and Jill, Adam Sandler's our star. He's a writer, producer on it. What is our relationship with Adam Sandler and his whole comedy groove? Bartek and I have talked about him on the podcast before and our relationship, so I'm very curious, Giuseppe, what do you think of the Sandman?
He's hit and miss. For me, he's hit and miss. He's done a lot of great comedies, which I love.
Such as?
Happy Gilmore. Billy Madison. Mainly those two. But
so literally two.
Two. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The old school.
But there's
two out of the 25 or whatever.
Most of them are pretty forgettable. But I don't know, that he does have his moments. And obviously Jack and Jill isn't one of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean,
guess
he's
growing up,
having a moment in Jack and Jill.
In a quick paycheck.
Yeah. So you think he's pretty much what... I don't mean to be rude, Giuseppe, but it sounds like you're making excuses for the man. You literally go, he's hit or miss, but what you've demonstrated is he's literally hit twice for you in his entire career.
Well, yeah, basically. I don't know. I've got a soft spot for him.
Why?
Because it's just what I grew up watching was religiously. It seemed as though Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore were on TV at least once a month.
Yeah.
So you only give
it's
him
more than
a
nostalgic.
pass because you have a nostalgic attachment.
I guess so, yeah.
Liam, what about you? What's your relationship with the Sandler?
I think he had a good middle career.
Middle career?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know that in technical sense, but in terms of what I saw from him, basically about the middle of his journey is where I would say his better movies are. So the ones that Giuseppe those where Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, where his entire production crew came from, I guess. Great movies at the time, and I find myself rewatching them and just seeing that that comedy hasn't aged well. I wouldn't say they're not good movies, don't get me wrong. I just feel when you watch them again now, the comedy hasn't aged too well.
Maybe you've matured.
Yeah, potentially. And, just the shampoo and the conditioner scene, that's not funny to me anymore. Other things in the movie are funny to me, absolutely. There's, throwaway lines that are generally tend to be the ones that really get me. But I think stuff like Mr. Deeds is, a really good representation of what I like about Adam Sandler. I think that era of movies for him is
Mr. Deeds, 50 First Dates,
Yep.
Click,
Yeah.
Big
that
Daddy.
era.
Yeah.
No, that's more
Big
still
Daddy's closer
early.
to what your closer to what your ones are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like him in that middle chunk era
Yeah.
where it was more where I would say it was the 2000s era
Yes.
Sandler, right? That makes sense. I think for we're all roughly around the same age bracket. It's that period of time where we are at that somewhat level that his comedy was aiming at.
Yeah.
Well, when Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore out, we were all a lot younger, and those movies were
and it just
slightly aiming a
landed,
bit
yeah.
higher. So we found an immaturity sensibility of enjoying those movies. I've said this on the podcast before. Adam Sandler, I kind of despise him because he's proven time and time again to me that he's very good. I think The Wedding Singer is one of his best
classic.
movies.
Yeah.
I think, I haven't watched Happy Gilmore in like well over a decade, and I never really cared for it as much as everyone else. There was obviously Billy Madison, everyone loves. I'm like, it's funny, but like, again, it's not as striking for me, but I recognize why people like it. And then he does stuff like, 50 First Dates is an odd one. Like, I like some of it and I hate other bits. It's like that movie specifically, I love the romance and I hate the comedy. And it's one of the thing is I've realized over the years, I think Adam Sandler's really good at being in romantic movies, like those movies where he does romance,
bizarre, right?
because he's charming. The thing what we're all going around is we like him because he's got this weird charm about him, and when he does a romance movie, he can turn on that charisma in very interesting ways. And Drew Barrymore is one of those actresses who can literally have on-screen chemistry with anyone and anything, including a puppet of an alien. Like, that's her skill. So she makes Adam Sandler a viable candidate for a relationship in which a lot of people were shocked that they weren't ever married or in a relationship ever, like that kind of thing. So I find myself struggling with him, but then he just does some of the most awful comedies that you see. Like, I hate the Grown Ups movies. I hate Little Nicky. I hate The Water Boy.
Little Nicky
same. Until right now.
I like that.
I hate The Water Boy. I hate, but the one I hate the most, and this is what I specifically remember, the moment in which my maturity grew and my disliking of Adam Sandler truly started, and Bartek and I have disagreed over this on the podcast before, I have always hated Big Daddy. I've always hated it, and I still think that movie's worse than this movie because it has the cardinal sin that this movie doesn't even try to do properly, which is I hate when Adam Sandler movies then out of nowhere pull out the, we're sentimental, and you should really feel for the characters, and you should really feel the heart that this story has all along. This movie does it literally for one scene, and then like Jack and Jill does it for one scene and moves on. Yeah. And in all fairness, I shouldn't give that a pass because that just proves it's even more lazy. But in those other Adam Sandler movies, when like Little Nicky has it, or Waterboy, or Don't Fear the Zohan, or any of those other movies, when the movies turn around and play that music, and he's like, you should feel for him. I don't fucking feel. And Big Daddy's that one. Even from a kid, I'm like, I don't fucking feel for these characters. I don't like any of them. At least with Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, their ones were so absurd. In comparison. But Adam Sandler's one of those elusive figures where he does a drama once every 10 years, and people are like, he's brilliant. He should get an Oscar.
It's about that time now, isn't it? Like,
I think I saw
Uncut
some
Gems.
post about that.
I messaged Liam saying like, I bet Jack, like in retrospect, Jack and Jill is one of the many things that cost Adam Sandler that Oscar nomination. Because how can you literally nominate that guy? He's one of the most horrific figures that's ever happened to cinema. Like in terms of like, he's an assassin of quality. That's how I describe it. Like, I mean, he's just like die.
People have made like fucking terrible movies and won awards before. James Franco walks that line every day of his existence.
But James Franco is always trying to be an artist while doing it. While what we've already said. Adam Sandler's lazy. Like he's so lazy. See, I didn't find it funny like you did, Liam. I found it boring. Because it's just like no one's trying. Because the thing is, there's no one that they're focusing on. Like it's just them two. Like you've seen his other movies, you at least have Christopher Walken's doing a lot of shtick here, or you have Harvey Keitel's doing something in the like. There's always something else or some other character that can go, that was a character. But Bartek, was there any other real characters in this movie other than Jack and Jill? Like proper characters that you can look at and go, I remember them.
Were there any scenes that didn't have either of them in it?
Yeah, but that doesn't matter truly.
From recollection, no.
Like, no, I don't think so.
I don't think so
I
either.
think maybe when it was just Al Pacino and Johnny Depp, That's a scene technically.
That's part
Yeah.
of a scene.
But
Yeah.
it's technically Jack and Jill aren't in that moment.
Well, it's not a full scene. I mean, like, full
I'm
scene.
giving
Yeah.
you the example that's
Yeah.
in the movie. There's nothing, Bartek. The answer is
But they're
no.
At the, no, they're at
Yeah.
the game. It's no.
Well, I guess, who is the supporting cast? And off the top of my head, I can only really think of Katie Holmes.
And she does nothing.
Yeah, and she does literally nothing. And,
Like in most of her other movies.
yeah.
No,
and
not
Al Pacino.
Yeah, and Al
And that's it.
Pacino. Oh yeah, Al Pacino. I guess he's the supporting character in the
Yeah.
movie that you can look at and be like, he's in it.
Yeah, but he's also playing like an exaggerated version of himself.
But
Yeah,
that's
he's
fine.
playing a Saturday Night Live version of himself.
But usually in
yeah.
other movies, when a person plays an exaggerated version of themselves, that's really fun and memorable, and
Yeah.
you love it. Like anytime The Simpsons has someone on and they're playing a version of themselves,
Yeah.
and like James Woods and stuff, like it's like, oh great. But this, it's like Al Pacino's just here. And it's like, here he is getting a paycheck.
and he's been in some good movies, so and he's in Jack
and he
Jill.
does Shakespeare, and
Yeah.
that's the joke, and like that's
Yeah.
the joke. So Bartek, what were the things that you didn't like about this movie? Because you seem very blah and negative-ish about it. You don't seem like you have any real positives to really get into. You had like one laugh, and even that you said with reserved nature about it. Like, oh.
I just gave it objective, like, yeah, I had one laugh and this was it.
So I guess we could draw from that the rest of the movie is what you didn't like.
I mean, I walked into it thinking like, okay, this is, it's got the reputation that it's got. Let's try to walk in neutral and actually like see specifically what doesn't work, given the
Yeah.
fact that we're doing a podcast about it.
Yeah.
And as it was beginning, like the first like 10-ish minutes, like, so it was just like kind of still neutral. When we got to the Thanksgiving dinner scene,
With
this
the homeless
was
man?
the scene with the homeless man.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
the homeless. His major scene.
Yeah.
Who's a character from a previous movie, apparently.
Okay.
Is
He's
it
apparently in
is it
Happy
Gilmore?
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a homeless guy in Happy Gilmore.
He's the caddy.
Oh, he's a caddy. there
I've
you
only
go.
seen that film
He
once.
is
so I can't
too.
remember.
Okay, yeah.
So, Bartek,
connection
that's when
there.
it snapped for you, huh?
This was where a lot of like red flags were being raised about. Like, okay, yeah, I can see why this film.
Like dancing across the screen, like a parade.
So immediately, the thing is that this scene, the tropes and cliches they're playing feel like this is a near the end of the movie, like breaking point kind of thing.
Right.
But this is incredibly early in the film. Like the reactions they're having, they're too big for, hey, we just started this film 10 minutes ago.
Yep.
Well, I want to disagree with you at a point, because this scene exists in a lot of these type of movies. This scene, the dinner table scene where people are introducing themselves and being very over the top, it's in Meet the Parents. That's where you get the famous, I have nipples, Greg, can you milk me?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that out of place necessarily for that moment, because I've seen it done in this context in
definitely
the same
the-
way so many other times. So-
Definitely the convention of having, a big meal early on so you can meet all the characters is a thing you would do. But I mean, the way it played out, I just feel like they were going a bit too over the top using these near the end of film or like third act breakup-ish
Okay.
tropes.
Yeah, I mean, what you're really saying is Jack and Jill argue and split up a lot in this movie, and usually in movies you leave that towards where the second act turns into the third act.
Yeah, and they do that around that point as well.
Again,
but-
and it means
Yeah.
nothing by that point because she's done it 5 times.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. They've already done it.
It's like the movie version of eating a Kit Kat.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's also the first time.
Was Kit Kat a sponsor for this? I don't remember.
It's also the first time you see Jill interact with someone other than Jack, and you start to see like, okay, this is the type of character that we're going to be watching.
Yeah.
I got thrown off from this movie from not the word go, but from after they have this introduction, Giuseppe, in case you need some reintroduction to this, they have all these real life twins being interviewed, and it's like supposed to be like this documentary about like, yeah, she can feel what I feel, and I'm different to her, and she's different to me, and he's fat, and I'm skinny, and like it's like all twins and how they got similarities and differences. And
Yep.
it's like, given this pseudo kind of like, ooh, there's going to be a meaning here. Like when you see that, the movie's giving you this subconscious thing in your brain where it's going, okay, they're going to explore that kind of stuff in the movie. Like that idea of like, siblings and especially identical twins, they've got a lot of similarities, a lot of differences, but then the movie doesn't do that really.
No, that was
But
just a
there's-
producer
In fact,
idea.
it kind of complains that it doesn't.
No, and then what threw me off immediately was we open up the movie and it's literally him filming an ad. But what we see is just basically an ad for Pepto-Bismol just go on, because they're filming this ad for Pepto-Bismol, and then they're like, break, cut, whatever, and then him and another guy walk over to another portion of the studio, and it's shot with like this kind of desaturated, muted colors, so that in the center of the shot, on the table behind them, is these bright pink bottles of Pepto-Bismol. So your eye naturally goes towards those Pepto-Bismols. And Adam Sandler's like, my sister's coming over for dinner. Oh, my stomach's hurting. And he grabs a Pepto-Bismol and he drinks it with the label facing the camera. And then he goes, that's much better. Such relief. And I just lost it. I was like, okay, what is this? Like, and I knew that's the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie, I get product placement. We all do. All movies need product placement.
Thank
you know,
Seinfeld.
we all know the reasons. Movies are expensive, and everyone gets a piece. But this was just such a parade of like, hey, he needs Dunkin' Donuts to get Al Pacino so that he can sell some Dunkin' Donuts. Donuts. Pepto-Bismol. Let me type on my Sony Vaio laptop. And like, I got some Sony headphones on, and this movie's made by Sony, oddly enough. And it's just like all that. Or it's like, ooh, let's go on this Royal Caribbean cruise with this specific cruise line. And they have like a glory shot of the name of the cruise line, and you're like, and they're literally walking around going, oh, they've got all these beneficial things like skipping rope and blackjack and all this kind of stuff. It's like, ooh, isn't this lovely? Don't you want to be on this cruise? And I was like, is this a movie, or is this just Adam Sandler getting a paycheck? The cost of
How
this...
else are they going to fund the movie? Like, who else would?
And the budget.
Who would have okayed it?
And the budget of the movie was like $79 million.
Yeah.
And
Which high for what it was. Yeah.
we all know that what Adam Sandler has done for most of his career is have a vacation.
Yeah.
A lot of his movies are an excuse for him and his friends to have a vacation.
Yeah.
Being the obvious example, 50 First Dates, where he's like, let's set it on Hawaii.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And like,
And then he wants to be with his friends, so he makes grown-ups.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
He just gets all of his buddies around. And, you know, if
And
you
they
were in the
just,
same
like-
position, can you say that you wouldn't do that?
I respect that, to be honest. Yeah.
yeah, you
I
respect
respect
it
his
at a
hustle.
certain point, but then
Yeah.
you have to go, stop. Can we have a movie? Like, I'm sick of seeing you and your friends kick about in the sand.
Yeah.
He's making movies for himself, not for
Yeah.
anyone else.
No, he's not making movies, Giuseppe. He's making money.
Yeah, he's
That's-
making
that's-
holidays.
Yeah, he's making holidays. He's making money. He's getting a tan.
Yeah.
Like, Bartek and I have made jokes on the podcast before about Adam Sandler in a movie pitch where he was going to be, like, we pitched it if he was a villain in a movie, it would be him on a yacht the entire time, just sitting down, and he would refuse to get up.
Yeah.
And he's like a sailor, but he just has a sailor hat on.
Yeah.
All he has is a hat on, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like, and he's just in his normal Sandler gear, which is shorts and a shirt.
Yeah, and it's a bowling shirt, yeah, and he's got like a coconut with a drink in it. Like,
And
Little umbrella.
Kevin James is his like right hand man
Yeah.
muscle, where he's just cracking his knuckles behind him. This movie, Jack and Jill, was like, why I say Bartek, I can't hate this movie is, yes, it was very offensive. It's very racist. It's very sexist. It's very homophobic. It's got transphobic. It's got every phobic that you want in there.
yeah, ticks all the boxes.
But it's so boring, and it doesn't even try to do what comedies do. Like, even that's why I say Step Brothers annoys me more, because Step Brothers at least tries in the minimal way to follow a film structure plot of like A, B, and C equals D. You know, like, it goes on, and this thing reacts to that thing. And that movie annoys me because I don't believe the characters would ever react in that way, even in the comedy universe that they're set in. But this movie, they didn't even try to have anything happen, really. It's just like you're just waiting for the next scene. I got thrown off by the editing in this movie. There was like a scene very early on in which the little Indian boy, who's only Indian in the movie because Adam Sandler wanted to make a couple of Indian jokes, and that was literally the only reason the kid's Indian. Because he's like, we adopted him, but then they never state if they adopted the daughter either, or if like Katie Holmes has, like, they have problems getting kids, or like, why would you adopt, like, you know, like, they never explain any of that kind of process. So the kid literally exists so that he can be the weird kid taping creatures and shit to himself
Yeah.
and objects, but they can have it so Jill can make some Indian jokes about him, and that's like
Yeah.
literally
Yeah,
like he existed so that you can tick that box, and the gardener's only Mexican, so Adam Sandler can make Mexican jokes. But hey, they're not racist because the Mexican guy who's written by Adam Sandler can make Mexican jokes because he himself is Mexican, so it's perfectly fine. It's not racist.
Yeah, like
What's that quote from LaQuisha?
Oh man, LaQuisha. I don't remember, but there's too
It's
many.
not racist. It's show business. Or
Yeah, it's
something?
not racism. It's show business. Yeah, it's entertainment. Like it's that thing of like
yeah.
this movie just has things where it's like, oh, now we need David Spade in the movie. Wouldn't it be funny if we made him a girl? Like that's literally all he does. He doesn't have a character.
Yeah.
David Spade doesn't have a character. He's just literally. Isn't it funny that he's a girl and that's all the joke is?
I didn't know it was him until after I finished watching.
Yeah, and also in the movie he doesn't have a character either.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think at any point someone would say we need to have David Spade in this film.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I've liked David Spade in many things before.
Okay,
I mean, Empress New Groove.
Okay,
oh
yeah.
man, fucking A+.
Yeah.
Just Shoot Me as a TV show. That
Just
Tommy,
Shoot Me was fine. Yeah.
Tommy, he was great in
Yeah.
it. Tommy
Yep.
Boy and Black Sheep and a few
Can't
other
remember
things and
Tommy Boy.
Coneheads and
Tommy Boy
Dickie
with,
Roberts.
Dickie Roberts and
Chris
like
Farley?
Chris Farley
Farley,
and
yeah.
I've enjoyed
yeah,
we've
yeah.
enjoyed David Spade
Yep,
before, haven't we, Bartek? So in this, you didn't even know it was him.
No, I didn't.
I did. I mean, he's just David Spade, but with boobies, and that's
Yeah.
it. Like he doesn't even throw his voice or anything. He's just like doing his normal David Spade.
I can tell it
voice.
was
Yeah.
I can tell it was a man playing the character.
You just
but I
didn't
just didn't know
recognize it was him straight away. Yeah.
No, I read about it afterwards. Like David Spade played that character. I'm like, oh, okay. I
Okay.
see.
Yeah, sure.
So that dinner scene, Bartek, is where it kind of broke the
That's where the red
illusion
flags-
of this could be mediocre or like you could tolerate it or like
Yeah.
neutral ground.
Yep.
That's
Like,
when you were
yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
no.
not illusion, but the neutral ground.
Where
of-
did it? What was there any specific moments where it just like that's the worst moment in the movie, or the worst joke, or the worst bit for you? Because there's just so many that you
Yeah,
just
there
have
are.
to go.
There are. Yeah.
I think it all mainly centers around Jill.
You
Yeah.
didn't like her, huh?
Yeah.
I think just most of the things that tried to work but didn't were with Jill.
Mm.
You didn't like that performance.
Not very
What about you,
much, no.
Giuseppe? Do you remember Jill and how she's like, I need to do poopy. Oh no, chimichangas. Ooh.
Well, no, those were the good things that worked, Ryan.
And Jill and how she leaves a sweat-stained shadow everywhere she goes.
Yeah.
It's just like, what does that even... I don't know. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. We'll
Fine.
accept that for what it is, I guess.
So, Liam, what's the
Yep.
comedy peak moment for you? What was the funniest thing in this movie? Considering you're on the opposite of everyone else, where we are like, what's the worst moment? You can have what's the best moment.
I think the best moments were the ones where I was like literally like pinching the bridge of my nose, and they're like a lot of them were circulated around like the really painful moments to watch, and probably the most painful moment to watch was when Jill was at the Mexican like the
picnic,
was it
family-
it was like a family picnic, and I was
It
just
was
like
a siesta.
I was like, what a fucking terribly racist scene. Like, thinly veiled as, like, her learning another culture. And I'm just like, this is tough to watch.
It doesn't even make sense because, okay, in a normal comedy movie, to fill everyone in on how comedy works, the joke would be Jill is...
CEO of Comedy Radio, yeah.
Jill would be ignorant and racist inadvertently, and
Yeah.
the Mexican guy would make all those jokes that he makes. So it's like, this is my daughter Juan, and this is my son Juan, and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And then she would be like, oh, they're all called Juan? Of course they are. And then he'd be like, no, I'm kidding. Like, that's the joke. But in this, Jill is completely accepting and opening to any possibility. So she's going to this thing just casually like, yeah, I'm having a good time. But the guy still does those jokes because they wanted those jokes, but they didn't even bother to think of like
Yeah.
how you do those jokes.
There
Like,
was
you
no
need
framing
a
device.
reason
Yeah.
for the joke.
Yeah.
And then of course you have the Mexican thing was very bad.
Yeah.
It was very bad.
Except the
was-
jalapenos, of course.
I
Just in
think
general.
I think the movie is very interesting because I was expecting it to be bad in the way that Liam was saying it is, where it's good, bad, or like some level of like shocking, or like expecting one to die. I found it very boring. But then there were those moments where I cringed at it because you have this moment these moments in the movie where you go, "Ooh, this is aged like milk." Because you have the ShamWow guy appear in the movie, and he's like a weird sex predator. Then you have Jared, the subway guy, appear, and they're all like, ladies love him, and he's like, I love having sex with women, and I'm like, no, you love having sex with children, and stuff like that. And then you have Al Pacino's whole story is about how he wants to use his powers as a very famous Hollywood man to fuck a woman. Yeah, and you just go, that's not aged very well, has it? And you just go. And the movie's like, isn't it great that that Al Pacino wants her? It's supposed to be funny, but then it's supposed to be like, isn't it cool that this guy who's so powerful and he could have literally any woman he wants using his power wants this woman who doesn't want him, and he's going to use all of his power to try and fuck her, and you just go,
because that's how relationships work as well. Like you just tell someone you don't want them and bang. Like, that's it, they're all over you.
And it's just like, and then the moral dilemma Adam Sandler has to have is, should I whore my sister out for an ad? And the movie's answer is yes.
Absolutely.
You fucking should. Basically sell your sister into sex trafficking so that you could get your Dunkachino.
What's that name?
Dunkachino. He doesn't even
fuck my sister so I can get a paycheck.
Fuck my sister.
It doesn't even work. That doesn't even work because he says, I've changed my first name to Dunk and now I'm Dunkachino. Al Pacino's last name isn't Acino, his name is Pacino, so it would be Dunk Pacino. That's not even, the joke doesn't even work, Bartek.
Now you've broken the illusion.
There was one thing
that came up on the writer's floor, and they were like, they won't notice.
I wish that you guys had watched it so you could have noticed this nuance. Bartek, I hope that you maybe know, you wouldn't have noticed this because this is so much a me pedantic thing. And it happened at the dinner scene, and it happened at the cinema, and it happened in other things. You know how people sit at like tables or chairs, and if you're in a couple, there's certain ways that you kind of sit towards one another. So if you're at a dinner table, you might even have them across from you or beside you. In this movie, I got so annoyed because they're at the dinner table, and you have the husband and wife, who I don't know who they were. They were somebody's parents. I assume her parents.
Right.
Nobody knows.
Who are you talking about?
At the dinner table scene, there was those two rich old people who were there, and they brought the homeless man there. She was sitting next to the homeless man who was on the end of the table, like on the side. She was sitting next to him, and the husband was sitting diagonally across, separated by two people.
Yeah, but like three chairs down.
Why would... What? And it's the only reason is so that in the conversation, this character can interact with this character easily so that they can do that.
Yeah, I see.
And you guys go, but that's not how reality works. Why is...
It was like in a family situation, they did the primary school thing where they're like, all right, well, you can't just sit with your friends.
You saw the you saw the production element of the blocking.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's so big. All like when they're at the cinema and they have all their Coca-Colas facing the screen so you can see the logo. And it's even on their popcorn, even though that's popcorn.
Because people need to know what Coke is.
Because Coca-Cola, boy, there's a whole spider web of how all these brands work together.
Let's go into that. No, I'm just going to go.
But then at the cinema, it's like, okay, so we see the shot. Jack, then I think it's the son, and then Jill.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Indians.
And
it's their adopted Indian son.
Yeah. And then you span it out, and then it's on Jill's side, on her whatever other side, is Katie Holmes, and then on Adam Sandler's other side is the daughter, and you go, why are they sitting like that? They wouldn't sit like that.
Absolutely not.
What are you talking about? Like, the parents would sit like next to the kids, and the kids would be next to each other. Like, they're both young kids. You wouldn't what? And I just lost it.
Or
There's so many times in which I go, the only reason is they wanted a little Indian boy to be in between them, looking at them doing their same mannerisms. That's
because
like
he's
literally
the funny quips kid.
Yeah.
Because
he quote unquote funny quips.
And then
kid.
I lost it with continuity. There's this joke that I thought was nearly funny. It wasn't a joke. It was a funny thing. The kid has taped some salt to his head, like in one of those big, what do you call them, salt crackers or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's taped it to his head, and it's like a unicorn horn. And then Adam Sandler grabs the back of the kid's head and shakes it so some salt can come out. But then the joke doesn't work because it's the wrong way around. The bit that the salt's coming out of is the bit that you crack.
Yeah.
Right.
on the opposite
Like,
end.
So
It
the
doesn't-
handle was on his head.
It was,
Yes,
the handle was
correct.
facing us, so the salt wouldn't come
Yeah,
out. So the
right.
joke doesn't even work.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless he
The comedy doesn't work.
I rest my case.
unless he like dunked the
Thank you
kid's
for coming
head
to
or
my TED
something.
Talk.
We're done here.
You're saying that he should have picked up the kid, flipped them upside down.
No. It doesn't
like,
even work
no,
because
it's like
there's
it's a
things on
cracker
his
one.
forehead.
Oh,
So,
right,
like,
right. My
Yeah,
mistake.
yeah.
It needs to be. It should have been taped the other way so that Adam Sandler
that
could
it could
do
have
that
done what I
joke.
said,
It
yeah.
doesn't even work.
Yeah. It's like the idea was for them to have a different style of salt shaker as well, because it wasn't even like I'm saying shaker, but it was one of those like ones where
It's a
you
crack.
crack it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it was disguised as a cracker, but it was actually a shaker.
No.
Shut up.
No.
There was a movie we did on the show in which someone had in the background of the shot, they had salt and pepper shakers as a chess set, and it was like the white was the sugar,
Right.
salt, and the black were the peppers, and I
Right.
just went, whoever came up with that in the background of this scene, give them an award, because
What
that's.
film was this? I don't remember this at all.
I would say it's unforgettable because it's always the answer. But like, I'm trying to think with Jack and Jill. Adam Sandler, this is considered his lowest point. Do we all agree, or do we think there's other low points? Because for me, it's Big Daddy. I think Big Daddy is my lowest ranking Adam Sandler. But do we have any other Adam Sandler movies that you just go, that is
Not
fucking bad?
Well,
not-
like
maybe-
Giuseppe mentioned Ridiculous Six.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even finish it.
I didn't know. I
Did
got
you, did you
five
get up
minutes in.
to where Taylor Lautner was in it?
No.
Okay.
No. 5 minutes. It's as
Bartek,
far as I
you've
got.
seen a good few Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah, mostly from 90s and 2000s. I think I remember hearing that I think Jack and Jill and That's My Boy are considered really low points.
That's My Boy
Oh,
is
That's My Boy.
absolute trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
We
like,
know someone who
genuinely
loves
terrible.
that movie.
Yeah.
They're
That's
like-
My Boy?
Interestingly, I made Ridiculous Six a screenshot from Ridiculous Six, my Facebook cover photo, because I thought it was just like this hilarious running gag with the little Indian kid. It was like
in this movie.
Yeah, it was like a toddler, and it every time it like the camera would like do that quick flip to the kid, and the kid would like pull up its little Indian, like handmade axe.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. It just landed on me for some reason.
Wasn't Ridiculous Six the movie where a bunch of Native Americans left because Adam Sandler was being extremely racist to them? I'm pretty sure that was a thing.
Probably.
I mean, most
That
definitely.
does not
What
surprise
other
No.
one would it be? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam Sandler's had his low points. He's had his high points. Wedding Singer's usually one that people are like, oh yeah, that's one. Yeah, that
Yeah.
we kind of forget that it's an Adam Sandler movie because
a
it
great
feels
film.
so romantic and different, even though it's very Adam Sandler type humor.
Yep.
This film, Jack and Jill, is a film, at least. Like, they shot it.
It's something.
It is something.
It churned a profit. I mean, surely there's Netflix Adam Sandler movies that the accumulative group of us haven't seen that are just like write-offs. Like
Yeah.
everything is made recently, as far as I view it, is a
Dog shit pile.
no. It's just like it's an easy watch. Like you don't have to pay attention to it, and like in my opinion, that's not a great movie.
What about?
Yeah.
Have we all forgotten? I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry.
the homophobic movie
Yeah, yeah.
that they ripped.
drastically.
They ripped it
homophobic
off
movie.
too, by the
Yeah.
way. There was an Australian movie
Yeah.
called Strange
Oh,
Bedfellows.
I remember that. Yeah.
So the film, I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. They're going to be pretending to be gay so they can get some benefits or whatever.
Yeah.
There was the Australian film that came out a year or two before called I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry with Michael Caton, who was in The Animal with Rob Schneider, and he had the script at the time, and he
Yeah.
showed Rob Schneider the script.
Yeah.
And then they made I Pronounce You Chuck and Larry.
I see, okay.
So, and then Michael Caton gave them the DVD of, like, Strange Bedfellows, like, hey, you ripped it off my movie, and Rob Schneider uses it as a coaster or something, like, he never watched it because he's a dick. So, I think Sandler, like, as much as people want to be like, oh, man, I hope he gets an Oscar, like, he's such a great dramatic actor, like, how people wanted...
Where are these people?
There are! Like, when he does something like...
Bring them to me.
Like when he does something punch. No. I have
Yeah.
been that person. When I
Show
see,
yourself.
When I see his movies like Punch
Yeah.
Drunk Love, or even Spanglish to a certain degree, or Reign Over, like all these. We all root for sometimes when comedy actors turn dramatic, like
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
Click's a big one.
Yeah.
Click, no, but we're
Really?
no.
Man,
The
very
last
emotional movie.
Yeah, but also then you have most of the movie is like, his dog's fucking this duck toy. Whoa, whoa.
So the dog should have gotten an Oscar.
Yeah, but like he's just done this new movie with the Safdie brothers called Uncut Gems, and it's supposed to be amazing, and everyone's really disappointed he didn't get an Oscar, and he was getting all these other awards. And I'm like, I root for those people. Like, I think Robin Williams deserved his Oscar, and I like when these comedy actors turn around and show us that they have a little bit more going on. Like, I love it. Adam Sandler, I kind of love it, but also I hate it because it just proves that he can do more.
Yeah.
You don't want him to do more?
I want to know, do more great stuff, but then he doesn't do it. He's like, once a decade I'll do it, and then I will make like 10 more worse movies. Like
He's saying the fact that he doesn't do it is rubbing it in the wound.
Yeah. And then
Like, when you know
maybe-
he's got the ability.
Maybe he does that so that when he actually does, when it happens and he releases those movies, they look so good compared to.
By comparison.
we wish.
Have you guys seen Funny People? Like, has
No,
anyone
I
ever
saw
Saw
it
seen
it once forever ago.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I
cool.
unfortunately have not lived through it.
It seemed like almost biographical.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he seems like a fascinating dude, but I just can't respect the guy. Like, and I'm like, you know what? You don't deserve an Oscar because you just produce so much shit, and this is the crowning jewel. Hence, I'm like, stuff like this is why people look at him and go, yeah, you don't deserve any acclaim or awards because he makes shit like this. And I hate the fact that, no offense, Giuseppe, but there's so many people like you who give him like this, oh, I liked a couple of his movies, so he's hit or miss, when really in reality he's miss. He just shoots it into the toilet bowl just all the time. We give him a pass because he did something literally like 30 years ago.
I don't know. When you
I'm
were
not giving
listing
him a
off,
pass.
when
But
you were
it is subjective though, right? Like
Yeah.
when you were
Liam
listing off,
Liam likes this movie that we're talking about.
and when you
so-
were listing off Adam Sandler movies before, you listed off a handful that I just like forgot even existed, and I was like, "Fuck, I really enjoyed that movie."
like Little
But then
Nicky.
you
Like-
listed off Mr. Deeds, and I'd forgotten that.
yeah,
I mean, this film had John McEnroe.
Winchesterton Fieldville.
Anger management.
Oh.
You know,
I really liked anger management.
I liked it in parts.
I liked it.
I liked it when Jack Nicholson was there. I
was
liked
there.
I liked it.
He's truly great.
I liked when Heather Graham was there.
Mm.
You know, stuff like that. Bartek, anything else you wanna bring up about Jack and Jill that you found worth talking about? Any scenes, moments, ideas that you had?
Have I had any more thoughts? We've been jumping around all over the place.
The
Feels like
jet
we-
ski scene, perhaps? No.
Fine.
She,
the
for
jet ski scene.
Yeah, for the listeners, Jill
Do you think the umbrella was damaged?
No.
Could they have used it in another
Yeah.
film after that shot?
Yeah, maybe that one went straight into the trash. Yeah.
It's really one of those movies, right? Where there's not even like that one moment where you can point to and go, like, that's easily the worst thing ever. Like you said, the Mexican scene, but then it's just like
That's not one thing, though. That's like
that's one
yeah.
whole sequence,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
then like
So you're valid, yeah, valid point.
Like, what about that other scene in which they did something incredibly mean-spirited and rude? One of the things I don't get is, so in these type of movies in which you have a guy dressing as a girl and all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of like man in drag humor.
Yeah.
Like, you have the thing where it's like, okay, in movies, like when Jack dresses up as Jill and he does all these masculine things and you know, Al Pacino notices and it's supposed to be like a hinting thing. But then Jill, it's intercutting between Jill and she's like lifting all these weights and stuff. And it's like, well, what is the difference between them? Like, it's supposed to be like the joke of, well, he's using his actual masculinity and that's supposed to be like the offset. But then she is very masculine.
Yeah, and there's
it's
even a
so
line. There's even a
confusing.
line earlier where she says, like, "Yeah, I'm stronger than him," basically.
Yeah.
Maybe he's all for equality. Maybe that's why. It's the underlying message in this.
He's out for
Yeah.
equality, hence he took down women's, Mexicans, gays, everyone down a notch.
Don't forget the homeless, right?
The homeless.
The forgotten homeless.
I thought he was going to matter. I thought he was going to come back, the homeless guy. He just kind of went away. He didn't do
Yeah.
anything.
At least in Happy Gilmore, there was a reason he was there. Like, in Happy Gilmore, he, obviously had no money, and he just needed a caddy, so he literally got a bum. Like, and that's kind of funny. That's a funny gag in itself. Like, he just literally got a vagrant off the street.
Adam Sandler likes picking on anyone who's different to him, anyone who he thinks is not as good as he is. He likes picking on the homeless. He likes picking on the rich. He picks on like anyone he deems is different. That's
love to
kind of
see
his
him-
style. The only people he doesn't pick on as derogatory fashion is Jews, and when he does, it's in a self-deprecating manner, and that's literally it.
Yeah, and like I would really like to see him do one of those celebrity roasts. And
Of
just,
himself?
Yeah, and just see like
He plays a character roasting himself.
Yeah.
and just see
Each person's a different character.
current day comedians like Hannibal Buress, like someone who doesn't care what other
Yeah.
people think of him. You know,
Just
like,
roasting this guy.
Saturday Night Live. What's that guy on Saturday Night Live? He's quite young. I think it was with I'm sorry to derail. The point is, like,
he
just
needs to be roasted publicly.
by
in a
people
square.
who aren't gonna let him get away with it. Like, I want to see people just go in on him and see his reaction.
Like, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin James will roast Adam
Yeah,
Sandler.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, but their roast would be like, Adam, you gave me a paycheck, you fucker.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no. He's like, Adam, you gave me a career. I'm like Kevin James. He only has a career because of Adam Sandler these
Yeah.
days. Like, what
Yeah.
else has he got?
Full Blood.
No, but that's because that's still connected with Happy Madison.
Is it a Happy
people.
Madison film?
Mhm.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Everything's
Walmart,
That makes sense.
ball mop. Yeah, no, that was a great.
Full mob.
What about Here Comes the Boom? He was in that. Was that Happy Madison?
Yeah, everything's Happy Madison these days. I can't wait for Happy Madison to make their Schindler's List type movie where they get like an acclaimed director to direct it, and it'll be like Adam Sandler doesn't care. He'll be like, I'm here in shorts and I don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
one of my favorite tropes of Adam Sandler movies is the schlubby guy with A-grade attractive woman as wife.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he has Katie Holmes, who, you know, she's a very attractive woman.
Oh man, I had such a crush on her when I was younger. When Dawson's Creek was out, I literally had posters of her on my wall.
What about Kate Beckinsale?
And Kate
Yeah,
Beckinsale and Click,
exactly,
and
yeah.
you know, Drew Barrymore even,
Yep.
and Salma Hayek,
Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston. Like, he has all of these like unobtainably beautiful women. It's like that typical thing
Yeah.
where it's like, there was a movie last year. It's like Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron, and
Yeah.
she's running for president, but she likes a little bit of Seth and his big fat juicy frame and hairy beard. And
Yeah.
like, and like,
Yeah.
I really, that's a movie. That was a movie.
His
movie-
pottery wasn't making enough money, so he just jumped on that
Yeah,
one.
Seth Rogen made a movie. It was called The Long Shot because it was such a long shot of her winning because she's
Yeah.
a woman, and it's a long shot that he would get her because she's a woman. So
He made Zack and Miri, so he's good.
yeah.
It's true, great
and
movie.
The Green Hornet, yeah. So Adam Sandler keep churning out movies. Do you think that he will make a movie worse than this? He did declare that if he didn't get an Oscar nomination, he would make the worst movie he could.
I think if he tried to make the worst movie he could, it couldn't be as bad as this.
I
Like,
didn't. Yeah, well, try isn't necessarily the
Yeah.
thing. Could he make a worse movie
Yes.
than this?
If he did, would you respect him for succeeding?
Weirdly,
In making a worse movie than this?
Yeah.
No.
Like intentionally, though.
No.
I would weirdly respect it. Yeah, absolutely.
No.
I mean, because it's just as hard to make a bad movie as it is to make a good one, in my opinion.
No.
Intentionally.
No, I think it's easy to intentionally make a bad movie. I think it's hard to make a so bad it's good movie intentionally.
Yeah, I
You
think
can
that's a better way of phrasing it,
intentionally
yeah.
make a bad movie very easily. It's
Yeah.
very easy. That's why you have Sharknado movies. Those are
Yeah,
very
yeah,
bad
yeah.
and easy, and they go for that. I think Adam Sandler will one day top himself and make a worse movie than this. I can't wait. Maybe he has on those Netflix movies, but no one's seen them.
Yeah.
It's like him and Marlon Wayans were like the last holdouts of that generation of like comedy. But don't worry, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly picked up the crown and said, "Let's make Sherlock Holmes, that
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes movie, Holmes and Watson."
They really did pick up the crown, though, didn't they? That's a really good.
and then, yeah.
That's a really good point. And I'd never really thought of that before. But where those Happy Madison pictures sort of stopped doing that style, they really just picked it up and ran with it.
Yeah, hey
Yeah.
Kevin Hart, do you want to be in this movie with me? I'm Will Ferrell. Now the pitch is, I'm a white guy going to prison. I need to learn how to survive, and you're the only black guy I know.
Yeah.
Thus, you've been in prison. Like that's the.
You're
pitch.
the whitest black guy we know.
Yeah, exactly. You're the safest black guy we
Don't
can
forget
get.
to throw the rock in there for good measure.
Yeah. Dwayne the Rocky Johnson. I'm really struggling. Like when I watched it, I was like, oh, what are we gonna talk about? Because it's like one of those movies that's like, everyone's had their pick of it, but it's like there's really nothing. Like, I'm surprised I didn't hate it. Like, I can't say I actually hated it. I was going in being like trying to be neutral, like Bartek, but there's that thing of like that, just
Yeah.
So you hate Big Daddy more than this film?
yeah. Oh yeah.
So I have an Adam Sandler movie that's in probably my, I'll say, top 10 of movies that I've watched the most. Maybe not that it's my favorite movie, but I've definitely watched it a bunch of times. And it's not Jack and Jill.
Is it Little Nicky?
It's The Longest Yard, which is a remake.
Yes, it is. Yes.
But I really like that movie. It really resonates with me. And I guess I'm a bit of a sports guy, so I like sports movies to a degree, like Friday Night Lights, Remember the Titans.
Waterboy?
Like, I actually really like Waterboy. I think it's a great movie. Again, like hasn't aged great.
We all trashed it half an hour ago.
No, I was waiting for an in so I could defend it, but it never came.
And I just gave it to you.
Yeah, the end is that it sucks. Yeah, The Longest Yard is one of those ones I just forget that exists. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that exists?
That's one of the ones I haven't seen.
Right.
Oh man, I
right.
love it. I think it's like I just like it in general. It's got Burt Reynolds.
Yeah,
like,
Chandler. Like that stupid boy. He didn't do that in this movie. He wasn't
Yeah.
energized in Jack and Jill to do these opera man or whatever voice it is. And
Yeah.
he's like, what, you don't like 8 Crazy Nights?
Like I
You
think
don't like
it's-
8 Crazy Nights, his animated film?
I
in
haven't
which
seen
it's
it.
about Hanukkah, and he does a character called Whitey who speaks like this the entire movie.
Oh man,
It's
no,
a technical foul.
And he sings like that.
I have not seen
I
it.
have not seen.
Well,
that.
I guess.
Is it feature length?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
And Rob Schneider plays a Chinese man.
Of course,
Of course
he
he
does.
does.
And Rob Schneider's like,
I wouldn't
hello,
expect
sir,
otherwise.
ching chong ching. Like, that's
Oh, and
his-
of course, Whitey has a sister who also is voiced by Adam Sandler.
That was
Jack
his
and Jill
tester.
happened way
That
before
was his
Jack
tester.
and Jill.
He was testing the
What,
waters.
did you just say Jack and Jill happened way before Jack and Jill? You're
Yeah,
right.
He
it
was
was
testing
Whitey
it,
and
yeah.
Eleanor.
Yeah.
Oh, I like how you remembered her name.
I've just heard impressions where they say the character's name.
I like how you remembered
I
it.
haven't seen the film.
God bless Adam Sandler. Hopefully one day he will have a good streak of movies. Not less like once every now and then he might do Uncut Gems or Punch Drunk Love.
And
Yeah.
I'll give him a trophy.
I'd love to see him in a Tarantino movie.
Ooh.
It wouldn't be that strange. Punch
Yeah.
Drunk Love with Paul Thomas Anderson.
Well, he's only making one more film, isn't he?
Tarantino or
Yeah.
Adam Sandler?
Tarantino. Adam Sandler's got like 1 dozen more.
Yeah.
I'd love it if
He's already
Tarantino's
signed a
last
dozen
movie.
deal with Netflix.
Netflix.
I'd love it if Tarantino's last movie was an Adam Sandler comedy.
his take on it.
Oh my god.
No. He just does one.
Yeah.
But he doesn't directs it like he does. So it's like Adam Sandler's wife. All you see is her feet wiggling
Yes.
around on the screen.
And he's got to make it a step above the feet.
And Adam Sandler
Yeah.
saying the N word all the time, like just like how Tarantino likes it, like all of that. Yeah. It's gonna be one of
And
those
Tarantino-
historical fiction movies again, where it's just like, and this one's set at the
And-
Titanic. It's Tarantino's Titanic, and Adam Sandler's the iceberg. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And Adam Sandler gives him permission for anti-Semitic slurs.
He doesn't need permission. Tarantino will just do it. I've watched Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
And
He
Samuel
definitely throws him
Jackson had
out
a
there.
voice in that.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
that?
Samuel Jackson had his voice in that.
I thought you said Adam Sandler in his voice.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and he was pretending to be Samuel L. Jackson.
I like how we were talking about like anti-Semitic comments, and then we brought up Inglourious Basterds, and your point is, Samuel Jackson's in that. Like it indicates that he gave permission.
I,
anti-
as Samuel L. Jackson.
Give permission for anti-Semitism in this particular feature film. Oh, Bartek, you're a gem. Is that it? I'm trying to remember if there was any other good, bad, or some funny moments. Giuseppe, you're just like, I don't remember nothing.
What about maybe closing notes?
I'm here for,
like, what are your closing notes on Jack and Jill? To the listener, like, what's your advice to the listener in approaching Jack and Jill?
approaching it? Run away from.
No, Ryan.
Do not approach.
This is our mystery box scenario. The listener has a poison, and this poison can only be cured by watching Jack and Jill. But it's a painful experience. What can you do to make it easier?
Choose death. Just let yourself
Embrace
die.
the sweet, cold, hard embrace of death.
Yeah,
No, but
Just let it happen.
their lover is being
Okay,
pursued by Al
okay,
Pacino, and they
okay.
need to live to save them.
Okay, I'll say this. We don't know what lies beyond the veil of life, death. But we do know what lies in the film Jack and Jill, so you can always take the bold step to go to the unknown and find out for yourself, which is choosing death, even let your loved one die. I will say my notes, like, yeah, of course I didn't like this movie, but I found it surprisingly just average and boring. I thought it was going to be a lot more offensive humor in it, but then I remember that Adam Sandler is for kids, it seems, more so. Like, his movies barely ever really have inappropriate jokes in that kind of sense where kids can't watch it necessarily. Like, they're usually just a little risque, but nothing like, I whipped my dick out and flung it around like
saying, "Oh, I need to do a poopy." Is like
fine
that's
for
fine
kids,
for
and then you
kids,
hear the poop sounds. But it's not like there's a
Yeah.
scene in which we see Jill fucking or something or
Yeah.
anything like that. And so
Like, Jack
it's like,
Nicholson's jerking it over a picture of.
like he has his moments in his
Adam
films,
Sandler
but
drag.
overall they're usually on the line where it's like a family could still watch this at
That would
least.
instantly make it better.
But they're not rude and crude, so I forgot about that. So I was shocked that this was just like, oh yeah, this is safe and boring. So this film, my
An
final notes is
easy
just
watch.
like, it's boring.
I think That's My Boy is meant to be a bit more like that. I think it opens with sex.
Good for it. But overall, it's just like, this is an Adam Sandler movie. I like, the premise is just stupid and boring, and it doesn't even make any sense because that's not how identical twins work.
And
Yeah.
it
And
has nothing to do with the nursery rhyme.
They don't even have to be twins.
they don't. They don't need to be. No.
Just be his sister.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, like literally.
of course it does, because they filmed those bits with the twins at the beginning and the end, so they needed to make it all fit together, or else that footage was used for nothing.
Yeah.
Overall, it's just, it's not as bad as everyone says, but it's still incredibly poor, and I can understand why it's one of the lowest rated comedies of the 2010s. It's still like 3.1 out of 10.
Rotten Tomatoes.
On IMDb, I don't remember
IMDb,
Rotten
yeah.
Tomatoes, but like, it's still one of the lowest rated mainstream Hollywood comedy movies.
Yeah.
I suppose
In that decade,
I
but
suppose one more question that we should just answer quickly.
3% Rotten Tomatoes. Sorry.
yeah,
You've answered it. I remember when we did our Scooby-Doo episode, one of our biggest praises for that film was that the actor who played Shaggy acted really well against a CGI thing that wasn't there. It's not necessarily the same case in this because it's Adam Sandler playing two characters, but did we feel like when the two Adam Sandlers interacted, did that feel like they were two separate characters, or was there any dissonance?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, it didn't feel janky, I think is maybe, for lack of a better way of saying it. Like, when they were speaking to and interacting with each other, it was edited well enough that it didn't feel like, there was a pause where he ran to the other side of the room, quickly ran behind a screen, comes out the other side with the dress on.
I feel like for someone who hasn't seen the film, that'd be one thing they'd be curious to know.
okay, it's very interesting. You brought up Scooby-Doo, and you could bring up Guardians of the Galaxy, any CGI created creature or something that they're acting against nothing.
Yeah.
The answer is no, because the film doesn't do literally it doesn't go beyond to try and have any complicated set pieces for them to do with the two of them on screen. If anything, it goes out of its way to separate them from one another and shoot them in isolated shots and then have them in a wide shot. The only times we get is them mimicking each other in the chair. And that's mimicking. Like, that's not really that difficult. You have to choreograph that. You don't get that moment in which it's like they're playing basketball with each other, or like you
something
get
really
the skip
complicated.
rope thing, and that's it. And I forgot that was there. Like, that's how boring it was. Like,
What would have been a funnier gag is if there was a scene where they were like, why don't you come stand next to me? And he's just like, I can't.
yeah.
But like for no
Yeah,
reason,
yeah,
No.
that'd be
very
a funny
meta
gag.
But it's
yeah.
not like they have a dance sequence together
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
a fight scene. Like, they don't do anything. At least with Scooby-Doo, they use Scooby-Doo and Groot and all these
Yeah,
people.
and shots last
and,
a long
and,
time.
and they do all these complicated things where you go, that would have been really difficult. But Adam Sandler's like,
Yeah.
I'm wearing shorts today. I'm not going to do that. I did find it very distracting how gross Adam Sandler's legs looked when he was in a dress. I was just like, no. I was like, put those away, Adam. Final notes, guys, on this? Giuseppe?
Yeah,
Look,
I mean, go ahead.
I'm gonna go home. I'm just gonna go and watch it now.
It's on Netflix.
You can't talk about it so much without now rewatching it.
Yeah,
You can.
exactly.
No, you
I mean,
can.
it's physically, yeah. My closing notes would be to the consumer, and that is the listener, and that is potentially the future viewer.
Sorry, hold on. call them listening people. On
But Adam Sandler calls them consumers because he's a businessman.
And you gotta buy that Pepto-Bismol. No,
Yeah.
I think that if you are thinking to now watch this movie, you absolutely should. I mean, waste the 91 minutes. Do it. Like, you've got the time. Don't kid yourself.
Do you dare them?
I double dog dare them. But I think when you are approaching this movie and watching it, just try to pick out how much he doesn't care. Just try to see when he's done scenes and hasn't really given the proper expression to the scene that he's doing. Look for those bits and pieces and you'll find yourself enjoying it more than if you're watching it as a comedy that it's trying to be.
That's true. I mean, I think why that didn't work for me is he does that in all of his movies recently. You could make the same argument he did that it's funnier in Pixels because in that movie he is working with CGI Wonderment where he's shooting Pac-Man and he just looks like I'm holding this giant gun.
Yeah.
I found that one funnier in terms of look at Adam Sandler be done.
I guarantee the concept for that movie was kids like video games.
No, the concept was this was a really smart.
Pac-Man.
Let's make a movie.
No. The concept was it was a really smart short film, and then Adam Sandler bought it and was like, "I want to do that, but make money. I want my friends in it. Like Kevin James is the president."
I'll do that for money.
That's it, isn't it, Bartek? Do you have final thoughts?
Final thoughts. When you watch this film, you might end up feeling very tired afterwards, and there's many. There are many things you can do, but one thing that I think would be worth doing is going to your local 7-Eleven because they have very cheap coffees that you can buy. Only $1. And if you go up to the cashier and you type in to their nose the promo code POLISH, you can get it 50% off. This is a deal exclusive to Spit and Polish listening people.
Exactly right, but that tastes so good. That subscription to our YouTube channel, so nice. I mean,
Subscriptocino!
Subscriptocino!
What's my name? Subscriptocino!
Do you think it's great that do you, Bartek, get frustrated that such a great actor like Al Pacino did this movie? And he quotes Godfather in it with no irony?
Considering I recently watched the first two, it's funny to see him in this immediately after almost.
And he's doing
He also quoted Scent of a Woman, which that one I remember.
Hoo-ha!
liking. Hoo-ha!
And he always quotes Son of a Woman. And he's now in an Oscar-nominated movie, The Irishman. I can't remember. He's nominated. He got nominated. So it's just they make a joke about the fact he's only ever won one Oscar. That was the joke.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, because imagine being an actor and only winning one Oscar.
Yeah, but it's Pacino.
And I'm saying, do tell.
Yeah.
Tell, Don Pacino. Well, that's Jack and Jill. It was a thing that we enjoyed. Bartek, it's your pick for the next episode. What movie would be covering on it?
Yep.
What is it?
We are covering the 2004 Bollywood film.
Bollywood, our first Bollywood film.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Main Hoon Na, or Main Hoon Na.
Okay, so...
That should tell you everything you need to know.
That's the title.
Tell us everything I need. How long is it?
I think it's 10 minutes shy of 3 hours.
Rough.
Man, at least my choice was only an hour and a half.
That's okay. And how many songs are in it?
I think about
The whole thing's a
7 or
song.
8.
Yeah. I mean, define length of song.
Yeah, how long are the songs?
4 to 5 minutes.
Since this is a Bollywood movie,
And just to be clear, this is a very sentimental film for me. It's
Right.
I feel the sentiment coming from you. So this is for us in Australia on Netflix, you said before we did this. So we can find it easy, but hopefully other people can find it easy in the world.
I think it's a fairly well-known one.
How are we watching it? Because this is a foreign film. Is there specific subs or dubs or whatever that people should go towards? Because I know sometimes some Bollywood films can be dubbed in a different language.
Yeah, I know that South Indian ones sometimes get dubbed into Hindi, but no, I think this one, I don't know if any dubs exist of it, so I just watch in the original Hindi.
I would heavily suggest anything in another language, you would just watch subbed.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
just for listening people, sometimes you have to give that
You gotta hear
Assuredness.
Shah Rukh Khan's voice for real.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you're wrong too. Sometimes you need to hear things in the dubs if you're watching it for the reason in which they're funny because of the dubs. Like
Right,
if we
okay,
did,
yeah.
if we were a TV podcast and
literally
if we did ghost stories, we would
Yeah.
need to listen to the dub of that.
Well,
Right.
We literally had that stipulation in our Story of Ricky episode. So
And then you were like, yeah, but I watched it with both on the same time, and I was like, okay.
no, I watched it with the dub and the sub. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly
That
what
was
you
both.
said.
That's literally what I said.
I watch
So-
every movie with subs now. I'm just
You're
that kind
old.
of person.
I've always
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I don't. I get
constantly
distracted.
on.
I get distracted by
I don't, 'cause I'm
subtitles.
smart.
No, it's not about being
I
smart,
know,
but
I
it's like
know.
it's that thing of like I just look at them and then I see, oh, that's what's going to be coming up, and I'm like, oh, okay, and they haven't said it yet, and I get distracted with that. I usually watch things with subtitles if they're a TV show, usually because I don't have as much investment. But movies, I'm like, okay,
I'm a fucking huge weeb.
I
So,
know.
like, I watch a
could
lot
feel
of
it
anime.
emanating off of
Yeah.
Same.
I literally have anime characters tattooed on my arm.
you. Yeah.
Did you know that the guy that wrote Pulp Fiction gave an anime film 5 stars and everyone was freaking out?
Great. You mean
Oh.
Tarantino?
No,
You said guy who wrote Pulp Fiction.
I think it was the writer of the film.
Tarantino.
Or someone that wasn't Tarantino.
Okay.
He just directed
Harvey
it, right?
Keitel. No, he writes and directs all of his movies.
Mm.
Maybe there was a co-writer.
Yeah,
Maybe he's a
co-writer.
co-writer, yeah. That'd make sense.
Well, Miscellaneous Boys, tell us about your show. You guys still do your show, yeah?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been a little while.
We went on a
been a
huge
while.
hiatus, hey, but we're back. We actually recorded this week, so anyone can come and listen to us on any podcasting, device or format.
Yeah.
And we also have started filming some videos as well, which is why our podcast has taken a bit of a hit. So we're putting some time into that as well.
Just released one actually.
Yeah.
So you give your miscellaneous, which will be in the description of this episode and the
Yep.
title, because it's sometimes people can have, I imagine, have difficulty finding your podcast.
Oh,
'cause
yeah,
you're
yeah.
Very specifically
A lot of spell correct issues.
spell
Yeah.
correct issues.
They'll try and correct you, but you got to tell them that they're wrong.
They're lame.
With my
So-
first name, I
Yeah.
know what you mean.
So, and with my last name, ditto.
My last name won't. It'll tell you it's wrong, but then won't suggest anything.
This
No,
is
you're
so
wrong.
far wrong.
So, what's your show about for the listening people who aren't familiar? What do you guys do? We've been on it.
Yeah, and you guys guessed it, and obviously more than welcome to come back again for that sort of punishment. But we we do a 15-ish minute quiz style podcast. We'll play a couple of audio tracks, and I get the listeners to essentially guess which one they think has more plays on a format, which is generally YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it's just a different meme every week. 1 week it could be the theme song from Stuart Little. The next week,
Is there a theme song for Stuart Little that's
It's
memorable?
just theme music.
I don't know. I was on a Facebook page before I came here for I Hate Stuart Little, and that was just really
I
fresh
remember.
in my
I
head.
remember that.
Why do you hate Stuart Little? It's
No, I
written by
don't.
M.
I was
Night
just
Shyamalan.
on the Facebook page for the dedication to hating Stuart
You
Little.
know who it is. It's those Shyamalan haters because they didn't like the fact that he wrote the script to Stuart Little, which is a true story. That's true. By the way.
Are you a Shyamalan homie? You
We've covered
all
a movie of
movies?
his recently, Lady in the Water, where
Yeah.
we got into that. I like Unbreakable. I think it's a masterpiece. But
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
movies, each movie, it's a case by case basis.
Yeah.
So he's one of those guys. But so Miscellaneous, find those guys. Yes, Miscellameous Podcast, pretty easy. We've been on it. We had fun. We did a few meme ones. We did one where it's like, guess which movie did better at the box office. And that was
Yes.
very fun.
Yeah.
Bartek, just because I've already forgotten, what was the name of the movie again for next episode?
Oh yeah, I'll say it again. So it's 3 words. Main Hoon Na. The first word is main, like the word primary, MAIN. The second word is spelt the same as Hoon, HOON, and the last word is just NA, and it means. If you're gonna make a Neil Breen joke, Ryan, it means I'm here now.
No, it should have been I am here now.
So mein Hoon Na.
So, okay, people find that. I'll have that in the description as well for those who were like, I need the name again. Because when you said it first off like it was all one word. So I was like, okay.
Yeah,
And then
I
you're like,
know.
it's 3 words. I'm like, wait, what? Get out of here. So, listening people, until, next time, make sure to check out the Miscellaneous guys. Make sure to check out, our other episodes of things, the movie for next week. so that you're all caught up for that discussion, or hopefully it'll be a good time. Bartek said it had sentiment for him, and that means very important.
It's a childhood classic.
Whoa, okay, we'll get into that next episode, but I don't think at any point as a child I had a classic that was 3 hours long almost. So that's very interesting.
When I say childhood, like 11, 12, not like super young.
Okay.
Yeah.
Teenagehood classic.
Mid 2000s nostalgia.
Preteen.
Okay,
classic.
Frankie Muniz classic.
Yeah.
If he's in it, boy, oh boy. So yeah, check that out, and yeah, we're on the social medias: Facebook, Twitter. Spin Post Presents. Find us pretty easy. We're posting stuff, always asking things. Liam usually likes our posts. He's always got something he likes.
Yeah, they're good posts most of the time. Like sometimes,
Most of the time.
sometimes I try to contribute, and I just like I don't know.
He likes things.
You
He's a
guys
liker.
put a lot more thought into movies than I do, and I consider myself like
A Jack and Jill fan.
a Jack and Jill fan. Yeah,
So that answers itself.
yeah. I've given it enough of a chance to formulate an opinion on it.
I mean, it's a level above us, but it comes with different nuances.
Yeah.
Bartek,
Yes.
is there a final thing you want to part with our listening people on for this episode? A final word. This is a eulogy for the episode. To proceed.
I guess just one last question. What's my name?